This is one of my favorite albums of all time, Julie Cruz's Floating into the Night. I bring this up not just because it is just what I say to be the perfect ambient dream pop album, but it also acted like the oops, it also acted like the pseudo soundtrack for one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And when you believe it, that the person who produced that album alongside Angelo Badalamenti also happened to be the creator and director of that very show. That show is, well, you know what the show is, I just mentioned it, but the person who made it was David Lynch, who was not just one of my favorite directors of all time, no, even more than that, he's practically my filmmaking hero. I bring this up because last night we lost him to emphysema, which is a smoking related cancer for those who don't know. And I lost who was practically my hero. Like, there was something so unique about his style that he brought to the table, and like I said, he was an inspiration to so many of us oddball filmmakers that have been some there have been some surrealists before David Lynch, but he was in a league of his own. He was, whatever it be, one of his like 10 feature films or just the guy himself, he had such a unique personality that it kind of bleeds into whatever he did. I mean, whatever we were ever going to get from him, it's always going to be unapologetically him. Like, they're always going to be surreal, wild, disturbing, sexy, funny, experimentally abstract, and sometimes all at once. And if all else fails, he'll throw a goddamn potato baby at you. I mean, even with like stellar duds like Dune, which even he would probably admit that it's a dud. I mean, it was so bad they had to take his name off of it, give it the infamous Alan Smithy pseudonym. Like, even the less than stellar stuff that he would put out had something about them that was nothing like anything else anyone had ever put out before. And I'd argue that he wouldn't be in that position if it wasn't for how unique he is, especially his feature films. So pretty much a practical proof that you could just put him in anything and everything would just simply write itself. Yeah, I once had the honor of, during lockdown, I thought I'd check out Eraserhead for the first time because, well, I was kind of on like that disturbing movie kind of marathon. And I already watched Pink Flamingos, I already watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and even checked out a Serbian film, which I didn't really like. I just thought it was weird. And one of the many films I had on my list was Eraserhead. And even with as low of a budget as it had, it felt like nothing that I had ever seen before. Like, I knew that experimental films existed, but, like, it practically had it didn't really have a story at all. It was one of the first films I saw that had that trait of experimental films. And, oh my god, it's just, it had a look to it, a certain look that I didn't seem to get out of my head for the rest of the night. Like, people walked out on this. Like, honest to God, it caused like Gaspar Noé style walkouts when it first came out in 1977. Like, this was years before Begotten. Like, this was years, like, this was a single year before, actually, did The Holy Mountain come out in 78? I don't know. But, sir, it came out in, like, a time where nothing like that was ever seen before. It's just, it's such a beautiful thing. Like, for as dark as it is, it's strangely beautiful. I also have to mention, this wasn't even my first rodeo with his work. I mean, years ago, back when I was 5, I saw The Straight Story for the first time, and it was, it was certainly an experience. You know, it's like a movie, like, this guy is on his tractor the whole time, and he's just driving to his brother, and it's so agonizingly slow. He doesn't even meet up with that many people, but he's just driving this tractor, and I know I might have been a weird kid, but I found that oddly engaging. Sort of, I wanted to see if he made it to his brother, because it was an engaging sort of film, but it was a my god, it was a Razorhead that made me like truly fall in love with experimental films. Like, I feel like without that movie, I would have never seen Meshes of the Afternoon or La Jetée or Passage Locked. That I feel like if I never had seen it prior, I would have never even given experimental films a chance. And that's how I would describe a lot of his projects, like Twin Peaks. There's something even about looking back on the opening credits of that. It's like, it is, sure, it's a strange show, and but looking at the cinematography of it all, with all those like soothing shots of Snoqualmie, and just the overhead shots, like the waterfall and the robin and the pretty much like the calm before the storm, it just offsets everything so well. And you know, I was going to talk more about this. I was planning, like, since 31st of January is David Lynch's birthday, I was going to talk more about going to talk more about his work in sort of worst to best ranking. And this was before I heard about the news, and I figure I really need to let this sit with me, because hearing about his death, like, I was coming back from a walk. I should probably not say that word, because, you know, the dogs are right there, and they're tired, so they probably don't need it. It's just, I came back to edit and write, and then I got the news from Dennis of Cold Blood Studios saying that he had just passed away, which was pretty shocking to me. Like, 78 is, I guess 78 is a decent age to live up to, but at the same time, he felt like beyond human, and knowing that he's not with us anymore, it just feels wrong. But I guess that's how things have to be sometimes. He was such an inspiration to everyone, such an inspiration to me. Like I said, he's like a filmmaking hero to me. But whatever life beholds, his films will always stick with him. It's gonna stick with all of us. Fly high, David Lynch. No matter what will happen in the world, we will see you again. Meanwhile.